Hey there, I'm Michaela with Michaela's Counseling. I want to give you a few thoughts to consider and just some words to let wash over you a little bit. If you're having an emotional flashback right now, I know that you're having a really hard time thinking clearly, okay? I know that it's really hard to see or really sense a time that your emotions have been different than they are right now. I don't know what kind of flashback you're in right now. It could be a despair flashback, could be an abandonment flashback to when nobody was there for you, could be some rage to it, there could be shame, there could be a whole mixture of emotions. You're not even sure what they are. And I want to give you a few suggestions about this. A, this flashback isn't you, okay? The feelings, the thoughts that you're having are not necessarily reflective of reality, and they're very, very likely reflective of how things felt a long time ago, because that's what a flashback is. It's something from the past and it's invading on your present. Another suggestion that I want to make is that you don't do anything major right now. Right now is not the time to make a major decision. Now is not the time to make a major investment. It's not the time to decide to contact your ex partner or boyfriend or girlfriend, whoever that may be, that you get the urge to contact. This isn't the time to do it. Now isn't the time to do addictive or compulsive kinds of things or things that could get you in trouble. Because what's going on is that it's almost like your body and your mind, they're being hijacked by this time from the past. And so what you're experiencing, it's a phantom, it's a ghost of something. And you want to stay safe and you want to do everything that you can so that when you come back to yourself, when you come back to a sense of clarity and sanity and liking who you are again and feeling hope for your life, you haven't done anything that is irreversible or that's going to be a nuisance for you later. And so right now, don't do a whole lot of anything. I've got another suggestion. I've been reading on a forum about people and they're writing about having these flashbacks, and one thing I notice is that sometimes they'll notice that they're having flashbacks, like they get that it's an emotional flashback, but they're having a hard time kind of teasing out the different parts of what's going on. And so even though they acknowledge the flashback, it might keep going. And so I want to give a couple tools for helping you to get a little bit more distance from it. So beyond just acknowledging it, you might consider, when is this from? Is this from when you were a really little kid? Is this from a time that you were a teenager? Is this maybe really kind of a very young feeling, kind of amorphous, maybe even from like when you were a toddler or maybe even before you had words? Check inside and notice if you can get a sense of what time period is this from? My second question for you is, do you have a picture of what you looked like at the time that this flashback is probably from? Do you have pictures of yourself as a child or a toddler, even a baby? If you don't have literal photographs, can you picture yourself in your mind, or even if it's hard to picture, you picture somebody around that age? Here's why. Because by having a visual for that, it might help you to have more compassion for the you that went through this pain. And you might imagine that these feelings, they're kind of like a postcard from the past. It's like there's a younger you that's sending you a memo that includes feelings and emotions and thoughts and body sensations. What they're saying to you is, this is what I went through. This is what it was like for me. This is what happened when I felt this age, or this is how I felt when I was this age. And if you can imagine that, notice if there's some kind of impulse that you have towards that younger person that's experiencing those feelings. You know, if somebody little were to actually come up to you or you were to approach them and they were able to somehow convey that they were in this kind of pain, what would you want to do for that little girl or that little boy? What would you do? You may have compassion for that younger you, and you may not yet. It may be hard to kind of feel into that, or it might really change your perspective to realize, oh, this is like a young person sending me a message. So that's one suggestion. Spend some time with that younger you. Try and visualize what that might have looked like. Notice if there's an impulse to, maybe some of my clients will have an impulse to wrap that child in their arms. Some of them will have an impulse to say to them, oh, this isn't your fault. Some of them have an urge to take their younger selves out for ice cream or to a park. It can be different at different times. If it's a flashback to a time that you did have words, you can actually ask that part. Ask that child you, hey, what do you need? What would help you right now? And if they don't know, you can take leadership and you can offer something that like a good parent might offer. That can really, really help to start to heal those flashbacks and put in a different experience. And then the other tool that I have to offer today is to just notice, what is the flashback like, not just emotionally, but what happens in your sensations? Notice if it's a feeling like, is it in your solar plexus? Do you feel shaky? Do you feel weak? Is there a particular impulse or set of impulses that goes with this flashback? For a moment, can you study what's going on physically for you? Some people do this, and in order to be able to do this, sometimes they have to almost like push away the thoughts for a minute and really just focus on the sensation. And this can be a time to kind of step back from the story about the flashback, or, you know, the images associated, and just really notice like what's happening in your body. So just take a moment right now if you can. If it feels safe to do it, just study what's going on in my sensations right now. For some people who are experiencing flashbacks of something like abandonment or neglect, there can actually be like a cold sensation that can go with that. And in keeping with that same thing, sometimes there can be like a feeling of contact deprivation. And so I'm kind of modeling one of the tools for that can be to actually just hold your body in some way, give yourself some contact. And it's not just with like neglect and abandonment stuff. Whatever the feeling is that you're experiencing, whatever the flashback is, there are going to be body sensation correlates. And so even if you're not quite sure how to address the emotion, or that feels really tangled, what you might do is look for what you're feeling and just find a way to give a physical counterpoint to it. So that if you're feeling really lost or floating or something, you might really ground your feet into the ground. If you're feeling cold, you might take a warm bath or make yourself some hot chocolate. If you're feeling like there's no touch, like there's nobody there for you, you might do this and even try saying inside to that younger you, I'm here, I'm right here. So those are some thoughts and some tools for flashbacks. I've been so happy to see that emotional flashbacks are an increasingly understood concept online, and we can all be really thankful to Pete Walker for coining that term. And I'm just excited too about how there are so many different ways of working with these flashbacks where we can really start to address them and start to heal these parts of ourselves, because flashbacks aren't just a nuisance. They're not just agonizing. They're also an opportunity. They're also a communication from a part of us that really, really needed something back then that those parts didn't get, and we can offer it now. If you'd like more tips like this, subscribe to my channel. If this was helpful, you might want to like this video or even favorite it so that you can just call it up anytime, and then you'll have me to walk you through a flashback moment any time of the day or night. And I'm always so pleased when I get emails or messages from people that this was useful to them in a moment that they really needed it. So thank you, and I will be back later with more tips, more tools.